All right. Thank you, and good morning again. And I hope everyone enjoyed the refreshments and the renaming of the auditorium, which we were really proud to be able to do for you, Rob. So let's continue this morning by thanking our board members who attended our annual education forum that we held just 2 weeks ago. We had more than 900 attendees, a group representing a wide variety of those who employ our CalPERS members. It was our highest attendance to date, and the feedback so far has been excellent. Just a data point on this that I know that our team tracks, 96% of the people who registered for the event actually attended the event.
Wow.
And when I did a poll of the room about how many people in the room was this their first in-person event, over half of the room raised their hands. So I think that tells you how important this event is to our employer representatives. So top of mind, I think, for many of the attendees was a concern for the long-term sustainability of the fund and how to balance the cost of their employees' benefits with their other budgetary demands and constraints. In my conversations with our employer partners, we also had an elected official track, and I want to, again, give credit to Controller Yee for having this idea to get the elected officials together in our annual employer education forum that I think has been pretty well attended, but really important group of members of the system where we can do some more direct interaction and direct conversations. Many times their questions are quite different than what we get from some of the practitioners who are attending. I did have a chance to remind everyone that we did put employer affordability as a top risk to the system, and it is woven now into our 5-year strategic plan as well. So while we measure risks, really is at the heart of providing retirement benefits to our members, but lately it does seem that one of the biggest risks we've noticed is the risk caused by misinformation when it comes to the issue of sustainable investments. Let's look at just 2 snapshots from last week. First, we saw world leaders gather in Egypt for COP27, where the Secretary General of the United Nations delivered a sobering assessment of the global effort to address climate change. He said, and I quote, "We are in the fight of our lives and we're losing." And then we watched millions of Americans cast their votes in the midterm elections. In some cases, the campaign rhetoric not only dismissed the danger of climate change, it went so far as to mischaracterize a strategy we believe in strongly, examining the risk factors of the environment, of social inequality, and of good governance. The falsehoods about ESG risk analysis have been so widespread that I even heard them repeated at our educational forum, particularly in the elected officials track. So let's spend a few minutes educating those who are spreading these allegations. After all, what these critics want is for CalPERS to stop considering the E, the S, and the G as a risk factor, even though doing so would be contrary to our fiduciary duty, your fiduciary duty, and might put the performance of our investments in jeopardy. First, we should remind everyone what ESG actually means. It is simply a thorough analysis of the environmental, social, and governance implications of an investment opportunity. Not everyone likes that term, and we don't always use it either because it's become a bit of a political football, perhaps because it also suggests that there might be a litmus test for whether an investment is a good one or a bad one. But let's be clear. Adopting an ESG approach really is just another lens through which we identify where our risks and our opportunities would lie. And as fiduciaries, again, reminder of our fiduciary duty, it's vital that we assess risk and take advantage of opportunities that help us pay benefits. So let me share a couple of examples of how this works internally. Recently, our CalPERS investment team used the zip codes of our real estate assets to assess their climate risk based on their location. And we found a number of these properties are in coastal regions, where rising sea levels from a warming planet may bring new or increased flood dangers into focus. That's a very real risk to the investment, and it's the kind of valuable information we receive when we use the principles of ESG. Another example is in our infrastructure program, where investments in wind and solar farms have paid off. These are assets that make up more than half of a portfolio that has outperformed its benchmark over the past 5 and 10 years. And they have an additional benefit of helping transition to a sustainable energy source. We do talk a lot about sustainability, We need to know whether the monetary value of our investments are sustainable in the short term as well as the long term. These same factors come into play in the report from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures that you were presented with on Monday. It highlights several important milestones on the road to addressing climate change. These include a reduction in the carbon intensity of our global equity portfolio by more than 30% over the past 7 years, and over 50% in our global fixed income portfolio. On the opportunity side, we also brief you that nearly $19 billion in our global equity portfolio and around $1 billion of our corporate credit portfolio is invested in companies designated as low carbon solutions. Finally, more than 51% of our infrastructure portfolio is invested in renewable energy, efficient infrastructure, sustainably certified, and carbon neutral assets. These accomplishments might never have been achieved without an ESG approach. But again, we'll be clear, applying the lens of ESG is not a mandate for how to invest, nor is it an endorsement of a political position or ideology. Those who say otherwise are actually advocating for investors like CalPERS to put on blinders, to ignore information and data that might otherwise help build on the retirement security that our 2 million members are relying upon. Instead, we do leverage the power that comes with our size in collaboration with a network of highly influential global partners to advocate for governance best practices that will help the companies we invest in succeed, and to ensure they are mitigating for climate risk while planning for the transition to a net zero economy. We use our proxy votes at the companies we invest in, again, to advocate for better corporate governance, and we work to improve transparency around important issues that matter to investors. For all that we've accomplished to date, we know there is more to do and not much time to do it. The bottom line of the of this ESG work is a need for clarity about the risk and reward potential with the companies in which we invest. Just as important is the use of consistent reporting standards across the financial marketplace to enable investors like CalPERS to make well-informed decisions. As the COP27 conference does wrap up tomorrow, countries around the world will reaffirm their pledge to help combat climate change. As they do, we expect the rhetoric around sustainable investing to come and go. But rhetoric doesn't drive our decisions. Data drives our decisions. It has to. CalPERS has been around for 90 years, and we have so much more to do. And then finally, before I conclude my report, I want to also briefly address some of the questions that we've received recently regarding concerns over investments in cryptocurrencies. The update that I can share with you is pretty simple on this topic. CalPERS has no direct exposure to cryptocurrency. We do know that there are likely some indirect exposures. That includes public equity index holdings. One example we've shared in the past couple of days has been the online platform called Coinbase, which provides for the buying and selling of cryptocurrency. We will continue to examine any potential impacts felt by our partners in private equity as well. But that does conclude my report this morning, President Taylor.
Thank you, Ms. Frost. I appreciate it.